Let's move to Miami here quickly, Jake. 40-1 to win the Super Bowl, plus 350 to win the AFC East, plus 225 to win the playoffs, or to win the playoffs, to get to the playoffs. Actually, to get a wild card spot is even better odds. It's nearly plus 300, plus 280. So if you just think they get into the playoffs, they don't win the division. If it's the Bills, a better bet for them to get a wild card spot. Their win total's at 9.5. I see 8.5 juiced up in some spots, nearly minus 180. Lots of different weapons here. Tua, quarterback 20. He's moved around quite a bit, Jake, just looking at these ADP risers. He went from 22 to 25 last week, and I was very surprised. And then the positive reports surfaced, and he jumped up to 20, which is the highest he's ever been, 166 ADP. Myles Gaskin is just outside that RB range that we just talked about, RB 24. Will Fuller has fallen quite a bit, wide receiver 44. Jalen Waddle, Tua's former teammate, wide receiver 47. The number one pick for them among wideouts in that draft, number 2 overall. And then DeVante Parker has fallen as well, wide receiver 54, Gesicki, tight end 12. I want to just, I guess, Gaskin first. Actually, no, Tua, in case we don't even get to Gaskin. We're running out of time. We talked a lot about movies. Tua, you're a big Tua guy. Can he be a QB1, or is it just a super flex second quarterback option? What's the expectation?
I think he can knock on the door of the QB1 status. He's never going to be a huge rusher, but he's got a better deep ball than people give him credit for. If you go back to college, you brought up Jalen Waddle. That big play, that championship play there, that was to Jalen Waddle. For everybody that forgets about that. The biggest concern I have for Tua from last year, and that's what's gone now, is that they tried to straddle the fence with him last year. They were trying to keep aspects of the passing game for Ryan Fitzpatrick because they kept screwing around with that. They pulled Fitzpatrick, who was shocked at the time, and then, Tua struggled a little bit, and they didn't completely overhaul the offense for him, similar to what we're seeing what the Eagles are doing this offseason, similar to what the Ravens, when Lamar Jackson stepped in at quarterback, Lamar Jackson was still running aspects of the Flacco offense. You need an offense built for him. And what they did is they tried to bring some pieces in and kind of did this hybrid-y, West Coasty type of we'll do a little aspect here and there. And it didn't fit Preston Williams before he got hurt because he doesn't fit that kind of game. And it didn't really fit Tua, and it didn't really fit the players. And DeVante Parker dealt with a hamstring at the beginning of the year and the end of the year, who I think is a great value right now. You just mentioned he's the third of the 3 wide receivers.
And he keeps falling, Jake. He keeps falling.
He does, and the biggest issue, the biggest concern I have for Tua is actually the 3 wide receivers, all potentially injury risks.
Yes.
But you have an offense built for Tua. You have an underrated running back. I will throw Gaskin in here so you can get him in there, who I do think has top 20 potential, at worst case scenario top 30. So you have the weapons here, and you have an offense now built for Tua. I think he could easily push the top 15 and get near QB1 status.
Yeah, I don't think you can judge too much from last year. You're right. I mean, the offense wasn't fit to him as Fitzpatrick, and he didn't have a lot of games where he threw. I mean, the Week 17 game against the Bills was ludicrous. I don't know if you remember. I think he threw almost 60 passes, a bunch of picks, and it just wasn't like the other games. It was the outlier game. But there was one game against Arizona when him and Kyler were going toe-to-toe, and he's running around a little bit. But all reports, he's healthy. He's throwing that deep ball. Fuller, as I mentioned, has fallen. He's the guy that I get it. In a high-stakes leagues, people are not willing to put their money, even though you're shooting for upside in around the range that he's going. I think people would rather just a safer pick. But Parker is very interesting, and I'm intrigued with Waddle as well as an upside guy. Gaskin, again, so he was heavily targeted last year, I think because there just wasn't a lot of options in the passing game. 47 targets, 34 red zone opportunities per game. That's top 10 among running backs. He was limited, didn't play a ton of games. RB13 overall in points per game. 41 catches, Jake. Average 4.7 targets and 4.1 catches per game over his 10 contests. Is it fair to say a slight decline with just the additions with the wide receivers?
Yeah, I think that's really what you're looking at here. You're talking not specifically for Gesicki here, right? Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at it, Jalen Waddle too coming in. So Gesicki had one of the highest volume out of the slot last year for tight ends, and also had one of the biggest opportunity shares. So even throw out the slot numbers, one of the biggest opportunity shares for tight ends, and still look at what he did. It was decent. It wasn't even great, and that's with a broken DeVante Parker. No Preston Williams, no really weapon like Jakeem Grant and Isaiah Fords and like those. Now you bring in Jalen Waddle, who is one for a healthy Jalen Waddle. His peak, he's not him yet. Before everybody loses their mind, and we always do these comparisons, but his peak is Tyreek Hill. Where does Tyreek Hill? Where does Jalen Waddle? Where do these type of receivers play? That slot. You move Gesicki out of that into more of the inline tight end and more of that situation there, and not to mention all 3 of them, if healthy. I'm off Gesicki, 100%.
Yeah, I'm shocked that he's actually going tight end 12. It's actually shocking to me.